Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The salaries have been a big discussion of this upcoming CDL season. Some rumours that many organisations are dropping their salaries even lower, but others might well be going the other way. ZooMaa gives some hints as to what actually might be happening there, because some rumours were a couple of months ago the salaries pretty much across the board were going down, but apparently that is not necessarily the case, especially for some organisations. But is that going to last, with Hex making it clear that if these pros GA the snipers again, that he'll be trying to boycott the salaries with the other owners? ZooMaa says that if they do boycott the snipers, then the salaries are going to be going down anyway over the coming seasons. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always. Plenty to start with. Wanted to begin here. Actually, a big fan of the Miami Heretics now, because Codley did that tweet that said most, kind of underrated or map lost in the archives, and Miami come out with Stronghold, which, if you guys don't know, is my favourite map ever. Any excuse to talk about Black Ops 3, I'm going to do it. Now, the reason why I wanted to mention this to some extent was that BO3 had many great maps. That was not necessarily true for many of the Infinity Ward games. It's an interesting dynamic right now, and we'll see what Dashy has to say on this in a second, that Traixx have done a lot right, I think, with Black Ops 7. We'll see how the game actually fares on release and whether it's looked back on as a great Call of Duty game, but I think there's no doubt that Traixx have made a lot of correct decisions. The game looks more exciting to play and to watch than some of the recent games have pretty much in the entirety of the CDL era. Black Ops 6 was fine, but again, the maps I think let it down. BO7 does look like it's going to be a better experience. Some of that is definitely the competition from Battlefields. That game has given COD a run for its money, for sure, in terms of sales and everything, so there's a good reason why they're pushing hard. But it's also worth looking back at how we got to this point, right? Because you rewind 10 years to Black Ops 3, lots of these problems with the game weren't really there. And we actually understand now that Infinity Wars, we believe on skill-based matchmaking, they pushed, and Joe Secot and the boys pushed so hard for this to Activision Blizzard and using the data or whatever, that Activision then forced that upon the other developers as well, even though they didn't want to do so. Now skill-based matchmaking is getting reverted. Again, can we be very happy? It's like Ake says, right? Create the problem, sell the solution or whatever, right? Because many of these issues were kind of self-inflicted, and now we're celebrating things going back to the way that they were when they should never really have changed in the first place, right? But anyway, this is just a list of all the things that Infinity Ward have done. They did change as a developer. The guys are there at the back end. They changed from creating great CODs back in the day to, some would argue just ruining COD in many respects. SBMM, seasonal prestige, disbanding lobbies, getting rid of the mini-map, adding it back and then having no red dots, right? I mean, just honestly hilarious things. A lot of this is Modern Warfare 19 stuff, as we know. Also tactical sprints, right? Tactical sprint in general. Even in MW19, they had the start glitch that came back, which was a complete embarrassment. Changed the perk system, nerfing the movement, introducing all of those new maps, right? The doors, I actually kind of forgot about the doors. So, yeah, they brought those in as well. Plenty of other things, removing all sorts of stuff, introduced squad spawns. So, yeah, congratulations, Infinity Ward. But that tweet was definitely doing the rounds yesterday. As I say, Dashy was looking at some of the things that Traixx have done. So, since the beta, they've updated a few things. The key thing, as we mentioned yesterday, is dexterity not being as much of a crutch anymore. Some of the things that it added with ADS when you're doing whatever, that's now in the game by default. But also the aim assist adjustments, making the aim assist, as far as they say, noticeably weaker to a certain degree, unless you're like a top quality player. And as Dashy says, we just need Battlefield every single year. That will solve the problem, because it's actually making Call of Duty be more competitive than they have been for some time. Let's talk challenges real quick. I thought this is an interesting tweet. Of course, this is the Omit team that closed out the end of last season. Vivid and Mac, we think, are going to Cloud9. Craze, we think, is going to Ravens with Slasher. Mumbo, we're pretty sure, is going to, nearly called them Rokkr, but G2 Minnesota or whatever. That franchise name, Kremp Skies and Estriel rounding out the team over there. So Ruffy, of course, who runs the show over there. A lot of talent from Halo coming over. CDL Rejects, new and old. I thought this is pretty funny. He says, FU Money Org. So when I first read this, I thought that he meant FU Money Orgs, right? Like Falcons and Cobble Trust Fund Baby Org owners, he says. But he just means that we've got the FU Money Orgs. I think that's what he means, that have the FU money, right? EU has a storyline finally, which is presumably Dylan Cod making his return. So yeah, challenges is going to be a minefield this year, especially if what we saw earlier today is true, that OpTic Nation might be coming back with Illy. That was certainly a talking point last night. look, I think Rebellions makes a fair point here about if you are going to grind challenges for another year, you've got to be careful about the way that you go about things. But these, we think, are the players that are going to be in the CDL. So just a quick look at the current rosters. Again, not a lot of this is really still being confirmed. Some of the teams may just wait until the actual game is out. I'm still fascinated to see what Gentlemates do because, I mean, I really hope that they can fully rebrand away from Los Angeles Gorillas, presumably move to Paris or something. I don't know. If it's not been confirmed by now, I'm a little bit concerned that it won't happen at all. Toronto, of course, some questions on their branding, but these are the rumoured teams anyway. That Ravens team with Lux, Geo, Craze and Slasher, reportedly kind of like the last one to get locked in. But even then, for example, Boston, as of recording, they've not confirmed that much, but it looks like these are going to be your 48 CDL players to start out the upcoming season. We will see what changes, if anything, over the coming days. LA Thieves, of course, are one of the key talking points. We put together some of these stats. Again, are these stats a little bit cherry-picked? Sure, but it is interesting to look at anyway, because, well, look, you can look at it a number of different ways. If you're looking at it from, like, the objective perspective, then yes, by the numbers, aBeZy and Kenny were doing less of that than Ghosty and Envoy were. Plants in search, hardpoint objective per 10, caps per map or whatever. I think really the takeaway from this graphic, given that event wins, overall KD, okay, event wins leans Kenny and aBeZy, overall KD is basically identical between the pair of them. This is in their entire CDL career, to be fair, but I think the takeaway is there will be some adjustment necessary by Ken and aBeZy. I don't expect Scrap and HyDra to change or want to change the way that they approach the game. We know that Ghosty and Envoy did a lot of objective work last year, and a lot of it was very well done indeed. Certainly hill time and caps and stuff like that. So it's no real surprise that those players, not just last year, but overall, have been more objective-minded players than Kenny and aBeZy have on their rosters. That may need to change to a certain extent this year. We'll see what that looks like, whether Kenny's now soaking hill time all the time. It also depends how the game plays, because in some games, let's say World War II, okay, we're rewinding a long way, but in World War II, the absolute main meta was for your main AR player to just sit in the hill the whole time. Like, they would just hold the heady and sit in the hill and collect the time. That's generally the way those maps were designed, whereas in other games, that was not true at all. The main AR would sit way back from the hill in a different spot. The SMG players would be up and, you know, nitty gritty in your face, as it were. So it depends on the way the game plays. But I think aBeZy is especially interesting on this front. I think Kenny will do kind of whatever's necessary, but aBeZy has played in, and also whether he can do whatever's necessary is also the question with Kenny. But aBeZy has played pretty much the same way his whole career, right? Like, he's played with Simp, and they've been the duo. Simp has been the second man in, aBeZy's been the fast, aggressive guy, and that's kind of never needed to change. The last couple of years, there have been some questions, certainly from Benjay Nassim, among others, as to aBeZy's efficacy, like how effective is he really being when it comes to getting traded? Is he being a bit too fast at times? From the objective perspective, is that really working? So I think that's a key question for me as to how aBeZy fits into what that team might need. But also it is aBeZy at the end of the day. So a couple of clips I wanted to share, some reaction to the changes for BO7 that we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, but also talk on the salaries, because we know that some salaries are going up. Sure, Celium, yeah, he's getting paid the giga bag by the Falcons. That is no shock, no surprise. Everyone knows that. The question is what's happening elsewhere, because there were some speculation that other teams were going down quite a lot, that the salaries were going not just to the minimum league salary that used to be a thing but now no longer is, but all the way down to straight up minimum state salary, or effectively as least money as the teams could possibly pay these players. Some may be looking to do that. Now, whether that's actually happening or not is a different question, but Hex did that clip where he says, look, if you're going to GA the snipers, because Hex wants them in, and I think for good reason, then I'm going to GA the salaries, talk to the other owners. We talked about yesterday whether that's really likely to happen, but look, ZooMaa gives his perspective and says, at the end of the day, if you don't bring the snipers in, the entertainment value, the viewership is going to go down to such an extent that these salaries are going to go down anyway. But then he says that at the moment, things on one hand are going up, but maybe not for long.
Updates for multiplayer.
Let's take a look at this real quick. Sure.
Okay, so the first topic I want to touch on is the whole aim down sights, ADS, while sliding, diving, wall jumping topic. So in the beta, that did require you to take the dexterity perk. The team looked at all of our options and ultimately landed on providing the most fluid experience by default, which does mean we've reintroduced the ability to aim down sights while sliding, diving, and wall jumping by default. You do not
I mean, come on. Thank fuck. I mean, seriously. That is a huge W. Huge W. So I'm pretty sure that they are going to, they're just making it slower if you don't have dex, which I think that's how it should be. Dude, the whole tack stance shit
need to take the dexterity perk.
Tack stance
Dexterity will still speed up those interactions, sprint to fire, slide to fire, but you will not need dexterity perk to ADS while doing those actions.
Thank goodness.
The next one
W
I want to touch
already.
on is, so first off, we're looking very...
Listen up, chat, because a lot of y'all are fucked. Aim assist. Some of y'all just fell to your knees in a parking lot. Some of y'all just fell to your knees.
And the data says that controller players are winning slightly more in close range engagements, and then keyboard mouse players are winning slightly more in those long range engagements. So what we're going to do here is to try to close that gap, take a very close look at the strength of aim assist across all of those ranges. And then additionally, we are looking at rotational aim assist and the requirement for your right aim stick to be moving in the direction of your target. We'll have more concrete details to share soon. That's my time for today. Of course, we have more details.
You guys actually have to move your stick in a direction of the fucking target. Are you kidding me?
And we got GA Salaries, and guess what? The green wall and all the fans of Call of Duty are on our side. So what are you gonna do then? What are you gonna do? You're gonna bitch publicly and to apply pressure to the owners? No, us, the owners, and the fandom want the sniper back.
See, Dylan, I'm so fucking lonely. You know what I'm saying? The motherfucking, the real boss, ladies and gentlemen, the real boss. You're gonna GA snipers, well then they're just gonna fucking GA fucking salaries. Uh-oh, guys, You know what I'm saying? And just a little add-on to that, but that's gonna happen in due time. I mean, eventually salaries in general, I mean, we can't really say that because, you know, I mean, we've already seen what's going on. I mean, we've already seen what's going on a little bit. They'd have to have that conversation like Hector said. But I mean, I'm hearing some salaries going on that are not lower, and some of them are definitely going higher.
So you guys probably remember when Methods did this in the middle of September, and he said, "Oh, Cloud9 poverty org, right? Like, I've heard 30k a player." Now he then revealed that he was, you know, he just made this up, and it was pretty entertaining at the time for a couple of days, and the response from Cloud9 and all this type of stuff, and also Ziddy flexing that Boston salary back in the day when Boston actually had some cash to throw around. But Methods also said, even outside of this, there was a clip that he said a couple of months ago now where he was like, as far as he understands, lots of the salaries are going down. It's certainly not how it used to be. It'll be interesting to find out. I mean, I don't think we'll ever really find out, but to see what the average CDL salary has been over the last few years. Probably it was at its highest in Modern Warfare 19, the first year. Loads of VC money flooding in. Loads of these organizations somehow thought this was really a sensible idea to pay these guys 20k a month. A load of the organizations were maxing out salaries because back then there was a salary cap of $1.5 million, which they've now dropped because they realized they couldn't enforce it, but not like anyone's really bumping up against that too much anyway, apart from maybe the Falcons or OpTic, or who even knows exactly what the numbers look like. The point is that in the first year of the league, there were a load of teams, Surge, Gorillas, among others, who you wouldn't maybe expect to, but they were like right on that limit. Their guys were getting paid $250,000, $300,000 each, no problems, no questions asked. And that then changed over time. The best players stayed at those type of figures, but many other players went down. So over the last couple of years, let's say a season like Modern Warfare 3, there was a feeling that the average salary in the league was probably something like 120k. I don't really know exactly, but there was just talk at the time, right? Because you got some guys like Shotzzy and whatever OpTic are paying, and the FaZe guys presumably were on decent salaries. They're going to be higher than that, but then we did have at that point quite a few teams that were at or near enough the minimum. Now the minimum salary no longer exists, so technically if their state allows it, they could go even lower. Whether they would is another question, but of course there's only so many spots, and every Challengers player is at least going to effectively take a CDL opportunity for any amount of money, so that does force some of the salaries down to a certain degree. But I wonder what it's like now, because as ZooMaa says, some salaries are going up, right? The existence of the Falcons means that the average salary this year might be up, but, and I'm talking mean in terms of average, right? But if you look at, let's say, the median salary, it might be lower or it might be similar or whatever. But ZooMaa seems to imply that other organizations as well, some of the organizations, you know, let's say Gentlemates, they've got a bit of money to spend, they might be bumping up some of the numbers a little bit as well. But equally, that might not be lasting forever, especially if no snipers, the entertainment value goes down, as has been implied for some time. If the CDL isn't as interesting anymore, then all of a sudden the players get paid less money. So I think that's a good perspective there from ZooMaa, is to say, look, players, if you don't listen to Hex, if you managed, you know, if we try, the owners or whatever, to boycott the salaries, whether that's successful or not, the reality is the players got to understand that if they don't try and do their part to keep this scene alive and to keep the scene entertaining, then they're just shooting themselves in the foot in the longer term anyway. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.